Hi everyone, my name is Madina Rahmasarita with student number A1M223011. Today I'm going to talk about something that lies at the heart of what makes us human, language. But we won't just look at grammar or vocabulary. We're diving into the fascinating field of psycholinguistics, the study of how our brain and mind process language. Let's begin with how we acquire our first language, also known as L1. From the time we are babies, we go through a predictable series of language development stages, universal across cultures and countries. Around 6 to 12 months old, babies begin to babble, not real words yet but pattern of sound. Then by 12 to 18 months, they enter the one-word stage, where they might say milk or up or mama to express entire ideas. By 2 years old, they use two-word combination like one toy, one milk. This entire process seems so natural, but it's not simple. Noam Chomsky believed we are born with a kind of internal language blueprint, a mental tool called the Language Acquisition Device, or LAD. According to him, we are biologically pre-wired to learn language, and that's why all children can pick it up so quickly, just by being exposed to it. In fact, by the age of 2, most kids have a vocabulary of 2 to 300 words, and by the time they are around 5 to 10 years old, they have mastered about 90% of their basic grammar with no formal teaching. Now let's shift to learning a second language, or L2. Unlike L1, second language acquisition usually requires a conscious effort. It's often learned in classrooms or through structured settings rather than natural immersion, and several things influence how easily we pick it up. One is interference. Our L1 can affect how we pronounce or construct sentences in L2. Another big factor is age. Younger learners tend to acquire language more easily due to brain plasticity, which is the brain's ability to adapt and change. And then there's motivation. Some people learn a second language because they need it for work or education, while others are drawn to it for cultural or personal reasons. And here's a fun fact. Up to 75% of the world's population is bilingual or multilingual. Speaking more than one language is actually more common than being monolingual. Well, unlike L1, second language learning usually requires conscious effort, as I said before, and it's shaped by multiple factors like age, motivation, and learning environment. And this brings us to one of the most influential figures in second language theory, Stephen Krashen. Krashen proposed the monitor model, which includes 5 key hypotheses. Let me briefly highlight 2 of the most impactful ones. First is the acquisition learning hypothesis. Krashen distinguished between acquisition, a natural subconscious process similar to how we learn L1, and learning, which is conscious and rule-based. He argued that acquisition is far more effective for real communication than formal grammar instruction alone. And the second is the input hypothesis. This is often summarized as I plus 1, meaning that learners progress when they are exposed to language input that is just slightly beyond their current level. For example, if a learner can understand simple present tense, then giving them a story with a few past tense verbs just beyond their level pushes their comprehension further without overwhelming them. Creation also emphasizes the importance of a low affective filter. Basically, learners need to feel relaxed, motivated, and confident. High anxiety or lack of motivation can block input and make acquisition harder. So NL2 learning is not just about effort, it's about meaningful input, emotional readiness, and natural communication. But language isn't just something we use to talk. It deeply shapes the way we think. Let's talk about meaning and thought. In psycholinguistics, semantic is the study of word meaning, and pragmatic is about how context affect that meaning. Take these two phrases. Time flies like an arrow versus fruit flies like a banana. They look similar but have completely different meanings, and it's pragmatics that help us tell them apart. Language gives structure to our thoughts. It helps us reason, solve problems, and even remember things. Some psychologists like Vygotsky believe that language and thought are so closely linked that we actually think in words even when we are not speaking out loud. So, where in the brain does all this magic happen? Let's look at the hemispheres. Brain hemisphere. First, left hemisphere, which handles most of the heavy lifting when it comes to language. In the frontal lobe, we find Broca's area. This is where we put our thoughts into words and form sentences. If it's damaged, we may struggle to speak even if we understand everything. Then there's Wernicke's area, located in the temporal lobe. This area helps us understand what others are saying. If it's affected, we might speak flatly, but the words won't make much sense. So, Broca's area is responsible to speech articulation and speech production. Meanwhile, Wernicke's area is responsible to speech comprehension and understanding. The right hemisphere helps us understand non-literal language like metaphors, jokes, irony, and emotional tone. It's what helps us know when someone is being sarcastic or when a word carries emotional weight. It also helps with facial expression, intonation, and keeping our speech coherent, especially useful for people learning a second language or constructing longer narratives. So, to wrap up, the conclusion is language and the brain are deeply connected. We are born with the tools to learn it, and we use it to build meaning and thought, and both hemispheres of the brain work together to help us communicate not just words, but emotion, context, and intention. So whether we are analyzing syntax, learning a second language, or just enjoying a clever pun, what we are really witnessing is the power of psycholinguistics in action. Thanks so much for watching. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.